Was watching the Planet of the Apes movies recently with my son, and we get to the third movie. For those of you who haven't seen it, the third movie, the humans and the apes are in a battle. No surprise. And it gets to a point where the humans capture a bunch of the apes, and in effect, they enslave them. Um, they have them working to like build a wall or something like that. And there was a few scenes leading up to kind of that main scene where you see that, but then even in the main scene where you see it, where actually they start whipping some of the apes. And my son is the type of person, the type of personality, whatever, where he feels things, right? That's not me as much. I do feel some things, like when it's really extreme, but most of the time it's I think about things. And the thinking about them can upset me or drive some emotions, but it starts with thinking. Um, he's much more like my wife. He feels it. So if something good is happening, he feels that joy and happiness almost in like an uncontrollable way. But it's more notable when something negative is happening. Like when you see somebody suffering, he almost can't tolerate it. At one point, we tried to watch the movie. This is maybe a year or two ago. I think it's a Disney movie, but Eight Below, and it's about these huskies. I think it's a true story about these huskies. They get trapped in Antarctica or something, um, and the movie is them trying to survive. And a couple of the huskies die during the movie, and he literally made me turn it off in the middle of the movie because he just couldn't take it. Like he feels it too much. So, anyways, I digress. So Planet of the Apes, we're watching that scene, and he's feeling it to the point where he's getting a little older now, but he was like, "Dad, I think I want to turn this off. Like I don't like this." Um, and so me again, not the feeler as much to think. Even that, it just makes me think, and I do feel like when he says that when I'm watching it, probably my predominant feeling is anger. If I'm being honest, there's definitely some sympathy, some compassion. I feel horrible for them. There's sadness, right? All those things, but it's anger. Like it makes me angry to think that somebody could act that way, that somebody could do that. Just like for him, it makes him feel awful that the world is such where that's actually how people are treated sometimes. That's how people can act. Um, so, parenting with a purpose, that whole thing, I'm trying to be really thoughtful. Not that there wasn't always a purpose involved with what I was trying to teach him, um, but I think I didn't always do a great job of connecting that purpose to something that he could relate to, something that resonated, something that actually speak the language he could hear is the phrase that I'll most often use these days. I think I was naive to the fact of being that age, what it actually means, what it actually feels like, how your mind is actually functioning, and your capacity to identify something as important and to prioritize it and to really, think about it or whatever. So, anyways, um, when it comes to this scene from the movie we watched and his reaction to it and the anger that I felt, the thing that it made me realize was, and so I paused the movie and we started talking about it a little bit, was one of the things that's very big for me with him is to some extent discipline, um, strength of mind, the ability to do hard things you don't necessarily want to do. And often, I explain the purpose, right? Hey, it's good to be able to do hard things. You're going to have to do hard things in life, so it's important that you build that muscle and kind of giving him some rationale behind it. But in the spirit of a 10, 11-year-old, that only goes so far. That only means so much. There's certainly a part of his mind that's just like, hey, you're just annoying, Dad. You're being a pain in the ass. You're making me do this stuff, whether it be physical stuff, mental stuff, whatever it is. It's a hassle to some extent. And that connection, I could tell, just isn't fully there yet. But I saw this as an opportunity um, to maybe bring that and make it a little more real for him, to make that purpose resonate a little bit more in a true way, in a genuine way that I believe. Because as I watched that movie, and I watched the way, it's a movie, I get it, but I watched the way the humans are acting and the way people are being treated, or apes in this case are being treated. And that strength, that discipline, that ability to do hard things, I think that comes up there because we hear strength spoken about so much today, somewhat for personal benefit, which is okay, right? Strength, discipline, right? It leads to freedom. It leads to you having the life you want, looking the way you want, achieving the things you want to achieve. And that's all great and that's all true. But I think the biggest reason, this is the point I made to my son, the biggest reason to try and build your strength, your mental strength, your discipline, is exactly what was happening in that movie. I think the effort it takes at times to be compassionate, to be empathetic, to show mercy, to show grace, to try and do the right thing, even when everything tells you you should do the other, right? Because you're scared or you're angry or you're insecure, whatever it might be. Exactly like in that movie where the humans are scared of the apes, and there's this colonel that kind of becomes kind of like a authoritarian leader, and is running the military, and he's got his issues, and everybody's following him because they're afraid, and they're doing these horrible things because they're scared, and they're taking out all the anger on the apes in that case. To overcome that sensation of fear or anger that tells you, hey, you're justified, go do this thing, go do this bad thing, this thing you wouldn't normally do, go hurt somebody, but it's okay because they deserve it, because they hurt you or they did something to you. The ability to do that, that's that mental strength. That's that discipline. That's that repetition and building that muscle of your mind telling you one thing and you not just accepting it, questioning. Because in no time in your life will it ever be harder than to do that, to pause, to reflect, to question what your mind is feeding you when you're in the throes of whatever that emotion is, sadness, fear, anger, when something really horrible's happened in your life. Those are the moments where that skill, that ability, which I would argue is completely rooted in mental strength and the ability to do something hard that your mind's telling you don't want to do, it's that moment. And again, what that leads to, I'd like to believe, is the ability to reduce what we saw in that movie, treating somebody or something that awful, creating that level of suffering in the world. That's the reason we practice strength. We do the hard things, right? We joke about it, we laugh about it, it's a pain in the ass. Sometimes you don't want to do it. Why though? Because of that. Because we care about that, and I know you do, right? Speaking to my son, because I see the way it makes you feel. You don't want that in this world. Well, that's the reason. So all those hard things we're doing, sure, do them for all the reasons that we all know, right? Maybe you enjoy them, maybe it helps you live a better, more disciplined, freer life, whatever it is, right? That's all great. But don't forget, it's also helping that. It's trying to also help to make you a better person. Because unfortunately, and I say this often, and I truly mean that, unfortunately, the more I observe and learn from my experiences in this world, you start to realize that one of the hardest things in the world, the thing that takes the most effort, is to be a good person. That's not our natural inclination, always. It's not that we don't have a beautiful core, right? We can go all different directions with that, and I do think humans, there's a beauty to humans for sure. But when those emotions we speak about come in, our inclination pulls us to a different place. And if we want to overcome that's that mental strength that we need. So just a way to try and not only bring purpose, hopefully, into his life, but in a way where perhaps he can hear it and understand why. Why is that actually important?